Working on that strategic plan.
Stand by 1 second, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going with it. No, we have a pet code, but it's not. Had lunch and they were at the whole time. It wasn't too bad. Lisa's a pretty nice.
One of the chief of staff, the superintendent, usually.
Well, what they want to have is they want her all that stuff, that's right.
All right, you're good to go.
All right. Thank you for your patience. We were getting the live stream. I need to post so that I can record it. Brendan, you need anything, bud? All right. Thank you. Sorry, careful with that. Ben? I'll need host privilege.
And he's not answering.
If I'm not host, I can't share my screen. Oh, Kevin.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for your patience. We're trying to work with the technology, and so we want to thank you. It's been a while since we've been face-to-face, and it's so nice to see everyone here. We want to thank you for taking the time out to be at today's Virtual Learning Advisory Committee meeting. I'm Dr. Meg Foley, and if you don't know me, I'm the Virtual Learning Coordinator at the Virginia Department of Education. And my colleague, Reggie Fox, will be introducing himself shortly. Today's educational climate has really introduced an increasingly robust focus on virtual learning opportunities. As you know, history has shown that virtual learning can aid in increasing student engagement, increasing student choice and voice, and increasing student achievement. Therefore, it's imperative that we seize this amazing opportunity to dive deeply into strategies to ensure our quality is at the foundation of our policies, our procedures, and our processes. So let's take care of some housekeeping items. The restrooms are located out the back door. We'll turn immediate right and then immediate left. There's also some chairs out there in case you have an urgent call that you need to take. And then we do have some snacks and water in the back for you. Also, you should have gotten a blue folder with the policy documents that were emailed out last week to you. And then we'll be looking at our agenda for today. So following this general welcome by me, and the agenda review, I'll be handing the presentation over to Reggie Fox for introduction, which will be followed by some opening remarks from either our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. Lisa Kuhn, who is able to join us today, or our Assistant State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Elizabeth Schultz, who is also in attendance. Dr. Brendan Allen, Director of STEM and Innovation, will then review the committee's purpose, role, and term details. Reggie and I will then present on the VLAC electronic meeting policy, as well as facilitate the committee's adoption vote. The second half of our meeting will focus on updates related to virtual learning and related areas, including the Virtual Virginia program, infrastructure technology, and instructional technology. And we ask that each presenter please introduce yourself at the beginning of your presentation part. Thank you. And lastly, we'll discuss information related to our next meeting. As this slide indicates, this meeting is being streamed live on the VDOE YouTube channel, and that any comments or questions may be sent to the virtual programs mailbox until May 5th. Now I'm going to turn over the presentation to Reggie Fox, my colleague, our extraordinary meeting organizer, as you know, and so he may do some introduction. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon at this point, and we echo those remarks that Meg made and welcome you in person. It's good to see everyone. And as we know, this is an important meeting that we have. And as you can see on the slide, we have representation from our community with BDOE staff as well as those organizations. So, you know, without sounding like I'm the kindergarten teacher calling out folks, I just wanted to acknowledge, because some of these folks will be speaking, new State Superintendent, Dr. Lisa Kuhn. We do have in the audience here with us today our new Chief of Staff, Dr. Jeremy Rayleigh. Of course, Elizabeth Schultz will be speaking, Dr. Alvin. If you all just raise your hand, of course, you've met Meg and me, Calypso, Gilstrap, Dr. Susan Clare, and of course, we want to thank our administrative assistant, support staff, Cynthia Evans in the back. So why don't we introduce the superintendent first, and I'll allow you to just go down the list and raise your hand and introduce yourselves, starting with Region 1.
So I'm Ernie Longworth, Director of Instructional Innovation, Chesterfield County Public Schools. I'm here representing Dr. Doherty today.
Region 2 is asked for Region 3.
Good afternoon, I'm Garrett Smith from State City Schools, and I've got Mr. Tom Luckless, our Director of Technology, with me to my right.
Warwick, Craig County Schools, representing Region 6.
Lincoln Whitaker, Classic County Schools, representing Dr. Kevin Sears.
Aaron Thompson, Charlotte County Public Schools, representing Dr. Mason, and my name changed, that's why I said Karen Osborne.
All right, welcome. And our organization represented today.
Rodney Jordan, representing the Virginia School Board Association.
Amy Griffin, representing the School Superintendent Association. Dr. Misty Felsover, representing WHRO.
Brian Mott, Virtual Virginia.
All right, thank you so much. Now, we will have.
So, I think, Meg, you were, pointing out that there were chairs out there for emergency phone calls.
Yes, I saw.
I think you unfortunately, jinxed, Dr. Coombs, and so I'm gonna read, the conjoined,
Would you-
comment.
Do you mind stepping through?
Oh, sure. She comes in, she'll give me the hook. Have my on-camera moment, so I have the glasses so I can read. So I just wanted to welcome all of the members of the Virtual Learning Advisory Committee. Virtual learning has, by default a little bit, become an integral part of our education system. Virtual learning can aid in always improving student engagement and choice, most while supporting personalized learning experiences for students and increasing access to high-quality learning experiences. Virtual learning programs offer flexibility to students, families, while providing instruction aligned with their standards of learning. Through access to high-quality digital resources and professional learning opportunities, teachers are able to leverage technology to deliver effective and engaging virtual instruction, both in blended and fully online formats. You want to comment to that?
I just want to say that you finished.
Virginia's high-quality virtual opportunities are made available through several avenues, including local school divisions, the Virtual Virginia program, and the multi-divisional online provider loss program. The availability of K-12 online courses, digital content, media access, and accessibility of the statewide learning management system all have a positive impact on school division, staff, and most significantly, students and families in our Commonwealth. Through your advisory role and your leadership, you play a critical role in expanding learning opportunities in Virginia's public schools. With this expansion, it is critical to evaluate high-quality programs to ensure that the courses or programs meet the requirements of accreditation and do align, in fact, with the educational objectives and SAA. I want to thank you for your participation and your dedication to the mission and overall goals of public education in Virginia. And I cede the floor to Dr. Coombs, our new state superintendent.
I just want to thank Elizabeth for stepping in. It's really important to have an amazing team when you're going in 12 directions. And when your boss calls, you go. So I appreciate the flexibility and the grace, but I want to welcome you all and thank you for being here. And thank Elizabeth for being such a great partner in the work. So thanks.
Thank you all.
This is amazing, having our state superintendent, our chief of staff, and our assistant superintendent here with us live today. So would you just applaud them, please? And Region 2, Dr. Jeffrey Smith. Welcome, sir. We're glad you made it. We are going to continue our meeting and get down to business now with Dr. Brennan Alvin, who will continue with our purpose, role, and term.
So again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, but even bigger than that, thank you for being willing to serve on the Virginia Virtual Learning Advisory Committee. just really want to take a moment to explain the need and the reason for this group and why this group is so integral and so important to be able to drive the long-term move of virtual learning and its use and utility within public schools here in Virginia. Now, there are 1.3 million students in Virginia, and if you ask who are the professionals at the Department of Education who are tasked with overseeing virtual learning, we have Reggie and we have Meg, and that's it. 1.3 million students need to rely on expertise from two people, and that is an enormous task on their shoulders, and there is so much there. So if you think about it, virtual learning grew from correspondence courses way back over time, and it became more of a cool thing that the big divisions may be doing, and then bang, guess what? We were all virtual learning 2.5 years ago. It was fun. And what happened is all of a sudden we needed to learn very quickly, how do we do this well? I was running a school where I didn't have a school division support, but I needed to make sure that every single student in my school was getting the optimal learning on a daily basis, because very high needs, high demand parents expecting learning every day, and just saying, well, come pick up packets at school, that wasn't going to cut it. And many of you saw that move around Commonwealth, where we suddenly had to accelerate from doing what we could at a distance to being able to do something with efficacy. So this group right here has two big roles in terms of how are we going to be able to get the most out of virtual learning in Virginia. Number one, let me say this, I hope to never have to go through that again, and I hope that we never do. However, if you were there and you were paying attention, you would have noticed that we got a lot of learning out of virtual learning. There were lots of things that we learned where we said, that's interesting. Why can't we do that on a daily basis? I used to work in a very small rural school division in Region 5 in Virginia, and I would have kids there who their parents were college professors, and they just moved here from Paris, and they wanted to do French 4, and guess what? We didn't have that teacher. But all of a sudden, now today, those opportunities are possibilities because of virtual learning. So when you talk about this group really has two massive roles. First is that which you see on the left-hand side, and that is to advise the state about the needs of virtual learning across the Commonwealth. We need to listen to you. We need to hear from you. What are the things that is going on in Pulaski County? What are the things that are going on in Fairfax County? What are the things that are going on in industry or anywhere else? What are the superintendents saying maybe we could use to elevate virtual learning? So we need this group to advise the agency to work with the board to be able to create a platform for those 1.3 million students to get the most out of virtual learning. So part of your role here is to advise us, to tell us what things we need to do. Meg and Reggie have done a spectacular job of doing professional learning opportunities for teachers across the Commonwealth. Granted, they were virtual, so there was no excuse for no one to ever not be able to get into them. But that, what are the needs that are going on, has come from information gleaned from you, etc. The second part of that is strategic planning. Now, as you know, we have already started, that has kind of been paused, there's a lot of changeover, in terms of being able to develop guidelines or regulations that are going to inform good virtual learning expectations in schools. We want to ensure and assure that every single student in Virginia, whether they are getting their instruction in a brick and mortar classroom from Miss Jones, who's standing right in front of them, or if they're doing it from a virtual medium because there's a teacher who is a virtual Virginia teacher who may be sitting in Puerto Rico giving me my instruction, we need to assure that that child is getting the very best appropriate standard of accreditation, standard of quality, learning needs to be able to know and grow in everything that they have. So we already started to develop some strategic plans about how we are going to put things together in Virginia. So we have sourced people from this board previously to be able to say what should be in those regulations, what should be reasonable in the virtual learning space. The right-hand column goes into a little bit of what we need to go in the opposite direction. Today, you're going to get a lot of information from Meg, from Reggie, from Brian about what's going on in virtual learning here, sorry, Dr. Mark, what's going on here in Virginia, and what are possibilities. So the key thing is we've got regional superintendents or their representatives. The request is take what you learned here, take it back, inform your region, make sure that that information is going back and that the superintendents around you are finding out, hey, you could be doing this, or hey, we learned that this opportunity is coming through a MOP, or this is coming through Virtual Virginia, or there is a platform we could use, and heck, here's even some professional learning opportunities. So there is a responsibility in you to take information back to your regions and to share that with them. At the same time, our industrial partners and our non-school division folks, we need you to be able to hear what's going on in public school. When you are able to go back and you are able to create resources, and you hear school division folks saying, hey, it would be great if we had this resource, and then industry hears that, industry can build that. We need that kind of listening from us to take that back to build those things. So, what does that mean to you? The requirement is that this committee does meet twice per year, and we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later on, but we only meet twice per year. I've been on many committees, and twice per year sounds good to me. So being able to meet, whether it be in person or in the virtual space, I think is a minimal request. The second thing is that when you sign up to serve on the Virtual Learning Advisory Committee, that is an at least 3-year commitment. It can be a rolling commitment after that. Now, some folks are coming to the point where they are going to be cycling off, and we do ask school divisions, if you're in, I'm going to pick Region 5. Where's Region 5 again? Just because that's my people. Right? If you're in Region 5, you're Stanton City, and your 3-year term might be coming to an end, you might want to say, well, let me maybe see if Charlottesville would like to have this opportunity, or let me see if Lynchburg would like to have this opportunity. You do have the possibility to be able to take participation on this board and to be able to transfer to another school division within your region should you want to do that. If you're loving this and if you're feeling this is a good place where your expertise is accepted, please continue. But we do ask that should you get to the end of your 3-year term, work with us to share with us maybe some names we can verify about who might be best for someone else to be able to take that place. But those are kind of the expectations of this group. Inform us, take information from us back to your localities, meet only twice a year, and then to serve that 3-year term. And if you, and like I said, if the term is coming to an end, we're happy to work with you to find another superintendent, but we'd rather you stay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. So this is our fun part of our meeting. So this is the review and hopefully adoption of our electronic meeting policy. This slide is simply a reminder as to the legislative makeup of the VLAC Committee. And as indicated in the policy, there are 12 core members, and they are the state superintendent of public instruction, a superintendent from each of the 8 regions, and up to 3 other members. Currently, we have a representative from the Virginia School Board Association, a representative from the Virginia Association of School Superintendents, and a representative from WHRO. And Brian Mott, Dr. Brian Mott, is a non-voting member as our Executive Director of Virtual Virginia. We've already had this through Reggie. Reggie went ahead and did the introductions of this slide, but we wanted to show it one more time because soon we will be going through the vote of whether or not we will have any virtual meetings throughout the year. This is the legislation that actually calls and requires that we have, for electronic meetings, that we have a vote and we have a policy in place for that. And so it highlights that if it's not an emergency situation, that we have to have a vote to continue to have any virtual meetings. And this full policy was in your packet, and we emailed it to you, Reggie did, actually last week, so that you could review it before today's meeting. On this slide, we're again highlighting some more information about those committee meetings. If you read from the email, there is quite intensive reading sometimes, but if you look at C9, the third bullet, that's one of particular interest for us. It's that the public body does not convene an all virtual public meeting more than 2 times a year. Where we cut it off, it actually goes on to say, and they cannot be back-to-back meetings. So as in that we only have 2 meetings currently during the year, we would be voting to have one all virtual if that's what is chosen by the voting committee members, and then we would have one face-to-face as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Reggie, and he's going to take us through a little bit more and the actual voting.
Thank you, Meg. Now, you've seen the policy, as Meg has indicated, it's in your packet today. We do have just an excerpt to say that we use the policy and working with the policy staff at Virginia Department of Ed. We've gone through this with them, and so if you see the word board and committee can be synonymous in this case. We tried to make this relative to the VLAC committee so that you are able to abide by the policy that's set forth today. So basically, rather than read through the policy, Meg covered many of those things that we're looking at, that we have to have an in-person meeting, we have to have virtual meetings. Those can't outweigh the other. The virtual meetings can't outweigh. So that's basically what we're voting on in this policy. So I'm going to actually have to have someone state this motion. I tried to make it easy for you by putting it there on the screen. So state the motion, state your name and your affiliation, and the motion. We will have a second, and we will actually have a vote to determine if this passes. So, any one of you who are members of the committee? Yes, sir.
I'd like to move that we adopt the recommended virtual board meeting policy for VLAC. That's Rodney Jordan.
Rodney Jordan. All right.
Amy Griffin.
Thank you, Amy. We have a motion. We have a second. Let's have those members who are voting members to raise your hand for adopting this policy. Thank you. And we have recorded that. We will record this in the minutes. The minutes will be on file. We can certainly thank you for adopting that policy. And then our fall meeting can be virtual, and we certainly will be talking, after Dr. Alwood talked about, those of you who may want to rotate positions on this committee. We will talk with you about that, and then we will schedule the fall meeting. Dr. Mott, Virtual Virginia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see familiar faces, new faces, some neighbors, top of the way in here. It's good to see everybody again in person. Thankfully, we all made it here on time and ready to get to work. My job today is to talk about Virtual Virginia. Of course, this is the period we always go over on the agenda, so just get comfortable and be prepared. For those of you who are new to Virtual Virginia is the VDOE's program with a long history, 40-year history, actually. Next year is our 40th anniversary, and we'll be celebrating really a history of no barriers. Virtual Virginia has had a long-standing policy in our K-12 program. If you want to participate, you can participate. There's no application process. Doesn't matter where you live geographically. You will have access to Virtual Virginia and opportunities that may not be available locally. And for us, success is all about providing those opportunities. We're very thankful to be a part of school divisions, and I'll share a map of participation here in just a moment. But we're most thankful for our students, helping them grow academically in our K-12 program. So a long-standing program here in the Commonwealth. with a rich history. In fact, some of those logos on the right represent some of that history. Some of you may be familiar with those. Some were short-lived. All of them only had a short life. You can see there's 7 logos there over 40 years. The Virtual Virginia, I actually have apparel with every single one of those logos. I thought about wearing one today, but it didn't fit anymore. Established in 1984 as Virginia's electronic classroom. So, like as I mentioned, 40-year anniversary. It expanded to become the satellite network, or VSIN. Many of you may be familiar with that program. In the early 2000s, Virginia also established the Virtual Virginia AP School. And again, those programs were combined in 2006 to form Virtual Virginia. We're missing a bullet there when Brian Mott came on in 2008. That's right. And again, it highlighted as a complement to local school offerings, not replacing what happens locally, but functioning as that complement to provide opportunities. Move from what was fixed to being flexible, some of the things Dr. Albert talked about as well. Other program highlights were a full-time program launched in 2015-16, and really happy, obviously, aside from last year, I'm going to kind of get us through what happened last year very quickly, sustained growth over time, especially as we expanded those grade level offerings. Some highlights in the last 2 years as well. We used to have self-reported data in Virtual Virginia. It's very difficult to get performance information on students because schools were self-reporting, the College Board was self-reporting. Virtual Virginia now reports a master schedule, similar to school divisions, so it's a lot easier to trace student performance and track student performance over time, and obviously changes to the College Board and make AP scores much easier to acquire for virtual programs. Today, we're going to highlight our 4 program areas. What we're traditionally known for is the K-12 program. That's a 40-year program. As others have mentioned, the statewide LMS is run through Virtual Virginia as well, our growing professional learning and summer session programs. We're going to skip what happened the last 2 years. We've covered that in other VLACs. Let's talk about where we are after the pandemic. Pandemic's over. So, today I'm going to highlight our K-12 instruction program, really what's going on, grades K-12, talk about how we are serving Virginia students at the same time expanding outside of Virginia's borders. That statewide learning management system, talk about the management system that's made available to all school divisions, also those K-12 learning resources that Virtual Virginia creates and makes available as well. And I mentioned a growing professional learning program, some done locally through Virtual Virginia, some done through school divisions, some through professional learning partnerships, and some exciting news about summer learning. As we mentioned, everybody has learned new skills. People are more comfortable with learning online and digital learning. How does summer learning impact what we do going forward as well? All right, so let's begin our first update with our K-12 program. Again, this is what Virtual Virginia is traditionally known for, K-12 instruction. How does it work? It's a partnership. It's a partnership between Virtual Virginia and the enrolling school, largely public schools. Right? We work together to create that environment to create a successful online learner. Virtual Virginia does what we do best. We provide access to the teacher, the content, resources, and that learning environment. The school does what they do best. You know your students. These remain your students. You provide student services, local support through a counselor or mentor, and any textbooks and materials required for that course. This partnership has been effective for, like I said, 4 decades. We've been doing it together, and we're really excited about this. Here's a participation map this year in Virtual Virginia. All but 5 divisions participate with Virtual Virginia this year, and that's great. Division needs are different. It's very different from one division to the next, and Virtual Virginia may not be the answer in a division at certain points in time. We do feel like there's a space in which learners can leverage the program, the schools can leverage the program, but it's nice to see that most divisions are participating. Those that aren't, we have actually been actively communicating over the last several weeks, and they're sharing their needs for next year. So we're working with those leaders in the event they ever need virtual. Here's our graph of enrollment. As I mentioned last year, we've kind of been through that story, how Virtual Virginia was leaned on across the state. We did not say no to an enrollment last year and in the previous year as well. This year's enrollment, as you can see, full-time students represented in green, part-time in yellow, and overall in blue. That exceeded our projection. we anticipated there would be some snapping back of the rubber band where folks would turn away from virtual. We began noticing in June of last year that, hey, things are exceeding what we thought a little bit. Next year, based on people finding virtual as an option, as a long-term viable option, we anticipate growth going into next year. In fact, we're already ahead of enrollment this time last year. So we're seeing trends that enrollment will continue to go back up. Again, we've told this story multiple times. We look at previous year's enrollment, see that growth trajectory going forward. One interesting piece that we've seen grow this year is our global students. And global consists of out-of-state, those who are non-Virginia residents, homeschool, and private school. While private school has decreased enrollments over the last 2 years, we are seeing growth in homeschool and out-of-state enrollments. Virtual Virginia has always served students abroad, military installations, but we're starting to get more inquiries from outside of the United States, outside of Virginia. In fact, this year we have students as far away as Taiwan taking AP courses who are coming to the States more for college. So it's exciting to see the reputation of the program has grown outside of Virginia as well. And of course, it's all about having touch points, and eventually folks that complete courses become advocates for Virtual Virginia. That's one of our goals. And the success of the program is tied back to student experiences. 90% of students are comfortable taking courses in Virtual Virginia. The families, they're very comfortable with Virtual Virginia as well. 92% of parents are satisfied with the availability of courses through Virtual Virginia. These are last year's survey numbers. The new survey numbers will be coming in here in just a few weeks. In schools, our partners, 94% are satisfied with the rigor of Virtual Virginia courses, and 94% are also satisfied with the curriculum alignment of Virtual Virginia courses. So all that kind of tells us that people are pleased with courses. They want more options. Parents and families want more options for their students than what may be available locally. At the same time, schools are more comfortable with Virtual Virginia as a program. So that kind of leads us to believe there will be some growth in enrollment and needs over the next year. How does this work? How do students feel supported? Well, it isn't just students off on an island taking courses. What we've learned over 40 years is it takes several support systems in place. Now, this is difficult to read with the lighting in the room, but each student is required to have a local mentor. I'll get to that in just a bit, who assists them through their learning, a school counselor of record, and a principal. Okay, so it isn't just a student off taking a course. There is a support structure in place at the school. What we've also seen in divisions is they're asking for additional roles at the division level, following virtual learners. So we've created a school coordinator and a division coordinator as well. We know many of those roles exist in school divisions, and we folded them into that student support structure for students who are enrolled in the Virtual Virginia program. So how does the model work for in-person learning? We all know that Virtual Virginia supports full-time virtual learners. Where we anticipate quite a bit of growth and need is in the in-person learning space. And if you go back to pre-pandemic, this was really how Virtual Virginia had in most of our enrollments, to be honest, with students who were in person, taking 1 or 2 classes that weren't available locally because there wasn't enough enrollment, or they couldn't find a teacher, or as Dr. Alvin mentioned, it was a French 4 class. They just needed one credit that they couldn't take locally. Now, with other factors in place, we anticipate that this will become a model of need going forward. In fact, we know it is already. We have successful use cases this year that we can point to where it's going to grow not only in those schools, but in those divisions. How it works, this is just a cross-section of a classroom, is you have a classroom mentor who I referenced earlier, that required mentor who could be a teacher in their planning period, could be a retired teacher who's not ready to jump back into teaching every day. We've had bus drivers who drive buses in the morning and come in and they're the Virtual Virginia mentor during the day. Could be a library and media specialist. Anybody locally who wants to be engaged with students but isn't ready to be a full-time teacher of record can be a mentor. And then we have students who Virtual Virginia is a largely synchronous model. I'm so thankful to have to define what that means anymore. Largely synchronous model. So students log in, Classes begin, put on their headphones, and they're immediately connected to their teachers and peers across the state. It's natural to them. How they interact. In fact, I'll share a story. We had an emergency situation this year where a school phoned us. They lost a trig teacher middle of the year. Said, hey, can you come in and help us get across the finish line? And thankfully, they enrolled within the enrollment period, and we were able to meet that need. We went in. Principal was very nervous, about onboarding these students. 15 minutes, the kids were on board, engaged, and taking their courses. They were ready. It was the minds of the adults in the room we had to change. And they had a great mentor they were able to bring in. And that's one of those successful models I talked about earlier that's going to grow in that school. And again, big shout out to all of our mentors across the state. They really are our partners. They're such an important part of this, right? Having that engaged adult with those students. Could be a member of the community, right, who just wants to be part of the classroom, be another set of eyes in the building, be a mentor to those students in the room in other ways that virtual Virginia teachers are not. So we're so proud of this model. We're very excited about where it's going in the future. We know it's a need in divisions. We're communicating with you all. We hear it every day. So just if you weren't familiar with the in-person support, this is how it looks. Now, what does it look like to August 2023? As I mentioned, we do anticipate quite a bit of growth in the K-12 instruction program. Full disclosure, we're working on the graphic. I know it's not where we want it to be, but it is. Today we are at VLAC, and essentially enrollment for fall closes June 28th. So you got a couple of weeks to determine your needs locally, post those positions, go out there and recruit, try to get the best teacher. If you can't, just know that we're sitting here waiting for you, ready to support you. Enroll by June 28th, and then we take a couple weeks off, we kind of sort out our staffing locally at Virtual Virginia, and then on July 10th, we begin student and parent engagement. We don't wait until August. We start in July. We run a Welcome to Virtual Virginia course for students and parents. We run a Welcome to High School. This is what high school looks like. This is what high school courses look like. We run a math prep program, and we run a K-5 program. So people are ready to engage with Virtual Virginia. They understand expectations. They understand the program. Yes, there will be emergency situations after June 28th. We'll try our best to accommodate those. But when it's planned, when it's intentional, you have more success. When you tell parents on board, if you're taking French 3, 4, 5 next year, it's going to be done virtually, you're clear up front. You let them know it's going to be through Virtual Virginia. We have been surprised by the response to that. Most parents and students are supportive of that communication up front. And then we do the welcome orientation in August, shortly before courses begin. So there's quite a bit of work that goes into enrollment closing and courses beginning on our end. We want to make sure that parents, students, and of course that local support school, those mentors that are so critical, we're training them all throughout the summer, engaging them so they understand their responsibilities. They know how to be successful with students using Virtual Virginia in person. Like I said, many of these folks are long-term subs, and they're more than willing to be in the building. They just need a little bit of support from us to be successful in that mentor role. So all throughout, from today until August, quite a bit of work to do, but the foundation is in place for a successful encouragement. Okay, a second program I want to provide an update on is our statewide learning management system. We have seen a ton of growth in this program over the years. This started in 2012 with one course. We put the Economics and Personal Finance course on the statewide LMS, and of course technology was different back then, and participation has clearly grown. This map's a little easier. Every school division of the Commonwealth has an instance of the statewide learning management system. Virginia is a leader nationally on learning management system access across the state. Now, full disclosure, some divisions are using 2 solutions, some have it set up, and they use it just for professional learning, but everybody has it. We have about 800,000 roughly students accessing the system in the last 6 months, so a little bit more than 2/3 of the state actively using the learning management system, but everybody has it, which is a huge step. And like I said, Virginia is a leader nationally on learning management system access. I'm going to keep this update brief. We talked about high-quality instructional materials briefly. Others have. That's where we're going. Virtual Virginia has created resources for courses, foundational resources, with the intent of making them available, K through 12, to teachers all over the state to use in blended learning environments. If you want to use them for teaching your own division-wide online program, you can use them. We create these resources with the intent of teachers taking them and modifying them, however they wanted to use them. We all know now that we have to add a little bit more to them. We're entering phase 2 of those resources, and our goal is going to be HQIM. Our goal is going to be using these resources to support teachers, make them easy to use, give them something that's Virginia-aligned from the core, from the build, and give them something that provides data that's ready to use. It doesn't have to be modified. And also for students, give them access to that just-in-time resource. Right away, teachers can assign it, know that students have access to it, and the teacher will get that data back efficiently through the statewide LMS. And my vision personally is to provide resources that if students need remediation, they have options of remediation. Not just one path, but they can choose 3 different ways to remediate or learn that content. So we are headed towards HQIM in Virginia and taking our foundational resources that are available now in the LMS and making them even better. Our third program is professional learning. As I mentioned, this is a growing space for us at Virtual Virginia. This is free. All of our professional learning is made available to public educators at no cost. It's available 24/7, 365, so meaning that teachers don't have to do an in-person space necessarily. You can have a complement to in-person with a follow-up online. You can do it all online, which we're seeing now is kind of the preferred method amongst teachers. Also, the ability to credential, badge, and micro-credential through Virtual Virginia is going to make it easier. Our capacity there has grown. You can see some badges there. Just as examples with our partners at Go Open, Code VA, Canvas, VASCD. We are partnering with more and more institutions across the state, making more and more opportunities available to our educators, making it easy. They can do it on their phone. As I mentioned, others are coming on board as well. We are excited not only about doing this at Virtual Virginia, but obviously through the department, creating multiple professional learning opportunities, and all the organizations you see there listed as well. Super excited about partnerships. Others have realized in industry and in professional organizations that this is the preferred method. This is the future. This is how we're going to deliver professional learning to educators, because we have to make sure that educators that are leading classrooms, leading divisions are engaged and supported. How you do that, piece of that puzzle is professional learning, and we can't do it alone, right? We need professional learning to be a partnership. So we're really excited about those that are coming on board to go along with us. And the really exciting piece is the professional learning network. On the statewide LMS, this is built in. This is a community of Virginia public educators, and we have built spaces for them. So they have access to synchronous, asynchronous. It's all integrated together. So when a teacher signs into the statewide LMS, the first tile they see is a professional learning network, and they can click it and join user groups and find what's available. That's going to be expanding next year. We're bringing on more professional organizations to make more offerings available, again, making it easy. Delivering professional learning that's easy for educators to engage with is the goal. This is going to grow dramatically over the next year. And I'll finish it up with summer session, something to look forward to in the near future. As I mentioned, everybody's learned new skills. Our world has changed. And summer learning is going to be an extension of the school year in more direct and intentional ways. This year at Virtual Virginia, we are again having K-5 camps available for K-5 learners, smaller, only 1 week at a time. These are available to students who are enrolled in Virtual Virginia courses for next year to keep them engaged throughout the summer months. Also external students as well as public school divisions, just to keep them learning and maybe learn new things. And also our 6 through 12, those are courses. We have camps for K-5, 6 through 12 courses, 2 cohorts. I live in Region 6, and we are definitely cohort 1. Those begin June 6th, and cohort 2 is for the school divisions that end a little bit later. Those begin June 20th. 40-plus courses this summer. The top 5 Virginia certified educators. The focus on core academic and world languages for students who either want to try something new, want to get ahead, need to make up. Of course, credit recovery is also an option in the summer as well. Okay, so excited about where we're going. We discussed our 4 program areas today. K through 12, we do anticipate quite a bit of growth in that space based on the needs across the state. statewide learning management system, of course, Virginia is the leader there. We are the leader on statewide LMS access and taking those foundational resources and transitioning to deliver HQIM on that statewide LMS. Professional learning, again, the growth there through partnerships is really exciting. And of course, summer session is right around the corner. We know more students are comfortable looking for more options. Any questions?
Maybe a two-parter. On the K-12 instruction side, and earlier on you identified some of the demographic data that you collect. Can you speak more to that demographic data? How do you know, or do you have data sets that indicate which students geographically, are they Title I schools? What type of demographic data set do you keep on who's participating? And then the part B of that, what type of data sets do you have around the student outcomes of children who participate in virtual Virginia versus, say, those that do not?
Part A, exactly. Question, part one. Okay. Do we collect demographic information? Yes, we do. We collect the STI and enrollment. Now, that data is run through the MSC, as I mentioned, just like a school division. We run that through the department at the end of the year through a master schedule report, and we don't collect it at the time of enrollment. We don't collect gender or demographic information outside of just name, essentially at the time of enrollment. Now, when you're comparing outcomes of students in virtual courses, it's very simple, it's very easy to say, this is the virtual Virginia average, this is the state average. But years ago, we recognized that it's not about comparing averages. We don't teach averages, we teach individuals, right? And it's all about those groups of students. So it's about how do in-person students perform in Halifax County on Algebra 1 versus the online students of Algebra 1 that are taking it through virtual Virginia. You have to break it down a little bit more than what it is. So when you're evaluating outcomes of virtual learning, last year with that boom in enrollment, it did provide us a larger sample to glean that data from. In the past, the samples have been too small, so we couldn't generalize and say, oh, this is how students perform online in this division versus these, because there's only 3 or 4 in this division that are, evaluating those outcomes. So going forward with the growth in enrollment, we do have a larger data set to compare students of groups by their geographic location in person to those virtual. Well, thank you. If you guys need me, you know where to get hold of me. Thank you all.
I'm Susan Clare. I'm the Learning Infrastructure Coordinator here at the Department, Office of STEM. I'd like to commend my colleagues on the great work that you're doing in the Commonwealth to continue to educate our students through virtual Virginia. I'm the Learning Infrastructure Coordinator. Just to give you a summary of my responsibilities here at the DOE, I provide outreach, support, technical expertise to our 132 school division IT directors. So directors like Lincoln there in the corner, Tom here from Stanton, I am their champion at the DOE for issues surrounding IT, like broadband, which I'm going to talk about today. Anything that has to do with the network infrastructure in the school, okay? I want to first throw this out to you because I've been going around the state for the last year talking to different groups, telling them this fact. Almost every student in Virginia has a Chromebook or a laptop. As a matter of fact, I'm very confident that every student in Virginia either has a Chromebook or a laptop. All right? In addition to that, every school division in Virginia has high-speed internet. They have more bandwidth than they know what to do with, okay? As Dr. Mott said, every division in Virginia has an LMS, has a learning management system, has Canvas. And every school division in Virginia has hundreds to thousands of educational technology applications. That's Discovery Learning, IXL, Canvas, Quizlet. You go down the list, there's a top 40 I just looked at yesterday. So the question I have for you today, I want you to write this down, because I'm a former teacher and I get homework, is what is possible? What is possible in the Commonwealth now that every student has a Chromebook or a laptop, has access to high-speed internet within the school, has educational applications, right? And has an LMS, has access to an LMS. What is possible? We can change education, I believe that. But I need for you all to come along with me on this journey, okay? But what we don't have is, we don't have broadband. Every student in Virginia does not have broadband, or access to broadband, or access to the internet. So here's a question, another question I want you to write down. I want you to write down right now as I talk. What impact will broadband expansion have on the virtual Virginia program? I want you to try to answer that within the context of my very short presentation here. So there's something going on in Virginia that's going to fix this problem eventually, okay? And I work with the Virginia Office of Broadband. They're in the Department of Housing and Community Development. They just got a lot of money from the feds. Anybody heard of the Digital Equity Act? Okay, yeah, you heard of the Digital Equity Act, right? So the Digital Equity Act, once it got passed by the federal government, it came down to this thing called the Digital Equity Planning Grant. So we're getting federal funds for digital equity planning, because we have this problem in Virginia. And a lot of this problem, you know where it is? It's in Southside Virginia, in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, Lunenburg. Areas of the state that are highly ignored. And those students typically are in low income, poverty levels very high. We have to be concerned about this. This is a problem. We've got kids that don't have access to the internet, or we got kids in urban areas. See, the superintendent from Hampton City is in here, from Norfolk. You have community members who cannot afford internet access. So that's another problem. So we've got affordability, we've got accessibility, and we have adoption. Some people just simply don't adopt internet because they don't want it. You know, these people who live up on the rural mountains, wherever, they don't want internet. You know, they want to stay isolated. So this funding is to address the digital divide in Virginia. This has been a problem for years. When I started in technology, the digital divide was a problem. It's still a problem. We haven't fixed it. So the strategy, the Office of Broadband, they hired some consultants to collaborate with, with the consultant. They're going to bring a consultant in, and these consultants are going to work with these Virginia statewide community action associations. Have you all heard of these community action associations? You know what I'm talking about with these? Okay. These community action associations, their mission is to help communities with programs like nutrition and elder care and helping with, food, providing food pantries. There's 31 of these in the state. And what's going to happen is these consultants are going to come in, they're going to partner with this Virginia Community Action Partnership, and they are going to ask the localities and the communities, schools are part of the community, and they're going to say, come give us input on where the issues are with broadband in your community. Now, why are they going to do that? Because they need to develop a plan, a digital opportunity plan, right? So they're going to identify the gaps. What are the identify the gaps in Hampton? Is it access? Is it affordability? Is it adoption? What about Lunenburg or Charlotte? What are your problems, Who can't access the internet? At home, not at school, at home. So your role in this, what I'm gonna ask you is, that when you get tapped on the shoulder from these community action partnerships and they ask you to come in and give them feedback, that you be there. And you tell them, these are the students in our division that don't have access to the internet, and this is kind of where, this is where they live. So your voice matters, and your voice will be heard, and your voice will be put into these regional opportunity plans. And then the state will then take the regional plans and roll it up into a state plan. And then that state plan will eventually get funded through the feds. That's the idea, to provide everybody in Virginia with broadband access over the next 5 years, because if they need to put fiber in the ground somewhere, that takes time, because that's construction, right? But, this goes back to the question of, I asked you at the beginning, what impact will broadband expansion have on the Virtual Virginia program, since we know the students access this Virtual Virginia program anywhere? So does anyone in here want to answer that question? What do you think the impact is going to be?
Hopefully it should expand the base to have access to more students.
Thank you.
It's a better quality experience, because within Nottaway, when I try to do Virtual Virginia, I can't get the video to play. Or when I'm working in it, upload the video, I can't get it to.
So more reliable, higher speed access. Yes. What else? Do you have any other thoughts?
Probably, a persistence of a student through the program where somebody may come and only take one class, but it's a positive experience, they will take more. So you will have more participation from students who already are in kind.
Okay, any other thoughts? Something to think about on the drive home, right? How it's gonna impact my community. But I really see the rural, the low income, and the racial and ethnic minorities, this will provide them with internet access, help them develop, economically and into the workforce and things like that. So it has big ramifications and implications for the state. And I just want to share one more thing with you. This Commonwealth Connect map. I want to get back to that, Reg.
Susan, can you give us an example of some of the 31 community organizations? Is this like communities and schools?
Yes. Wait, good suggestion. So who we are is, there's a whole list of the agencies, Elizabeth, and
Just so that people can
wait, okay. Yeah, it's blocked, but there's 31 of them around the state, right? And so, they're funded, they're actually federally funded.
In our region, in the 757, there's, HR CAP that's on the peninsula, and then there's the STOP organization that's
Yeah,
on the south side.
this one. Anyone else have any thoughts about broadband? So I gave you your homework, right? Think about that question. And then engage in your community. Then I wanted to show you the broadband map for some of you that are not familiar with the broadband map.
Susan, while you bring that up, we're talking about students here, right? Students we have to remember the adults and professionals are also going to have improved access in these communities as well. It's not just the K through 12 learners, it's the teachers in these communities. How do we engage them? How do we support them because they, obviously, we need them. They're very, very critical in all of this. And if we're going to engage and support teachers, I know we're asking a lot of them now anyway, but it's going to happen outside of that building. It just
Great.
has to happen.
Yeah, and we don't have teachers that have access, exactly, yeah. Brendan?
Well, you could have stopped a few words short. You could have just said, we don't have teachers. So what this does, because we've got more avenue for, I mean, not only online through university credentialing, but we're also building a micro-credentialing program, we're going to be able to get more teachers in the door in some of the corners of the state that they're living in places with access to this. They can be able to live where they are and get that degree, the credentials to teach in their own community.
And lastly, I just wanted to refer you to, this is the state broadband map. If you want to get more granular about the broadband access in your community, you can reference this map. And if you have any further questions or want to have discussion after the meeting, I'll be here. Thank you.
I have one thought for you. I had the pleasure of working on an earlier version of the national broadband map, and to the point of social action agencies and others. One of the things that we found was helpful was employing young people as digital connectors and technical scholars who would go out and host town hall meetings or do surveys or really do that peer-to-peer engagement so that that group was represented. Because in my experience, oftentimes the agencies that are serving populations, they do a great job of what they do and meet in the middle. But part of what we were finding was that making sure that the content was relevant and exciting to the target audience made a difference in terms of adoption once the access is there. So to the extent that there's anything in the strategic plan or effort to engage students and to engage individuals that live in the neighborhood and be part of that survey group, I would encourage that stuff.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm Callisto Gilstrap. I'm new to the agency as of October. Used to work with Dr. Bailey in Goochland, so I like to think he chased me here. He missed me so much. I'm the instructional technology specialist, so I take care of ITRTs, libraries, and the digital learning integration standards of learning, and the educational technology plan. Basically, if kids are using instructional technology, it falls under my umbrella. And I'm here to talk to you about, one, Go Open VA, which is Virginia's K-12 open educational resource. So it's kind of two ways people can get curriculum, and that is through our awesome partners like Virtual Virginia's high-quality instructional materials, WHRO's awesome materials, where we pay people that are content specialists to create things. We could buy things from curriculum, for vendors, those kinds of things. But we could also do open educational resources. So the advantage of that is, for instance, let's say a teacher creates, or even an educational partner like the VMFA, creates a great educational resource. We put it in Go Open VA, and then the advantage to that is it's an open educational resource. So our teachers can take that resource, remix it for their own students, and then republish it for other people to use. So for instance, we are building right now a Crotel hub, and we are working with our ESOL teachers, our instructional leaders who help students that don't speak English as their first language, take our instructional materials that like Mitzi's department might make. They will translate those into other languages, maybe adapt it with more visual aids, maybe put some assistive technology abilities to it, and then republish it for our students who don't speak English as their first language, to help those teachers who don't have an ESOL endorsement be able to teach the same materials to all of our students, to create those personal learning pathways that we're talking about, bridge that gap. So in 2022, we had 120,000 users. To be a user on GoOpenVA, you do have to be a public educator in Virginia, or you have to have your membership approved by me, the administrator. So we do have a domain list that is automatically, so like if you sign in with your Stafford email, you automatically get an account. But if you signed in with a Gmail account, that goes to me, and then I go, like, who are you? Why do you want to be on ours? We have 382,000 visitors, though, and what's crazy is most of them were from New York City. So look at us. We are doing some awesome stuff. What's awesome about Open Educational Resources, though, is it makes our curriculum transparent. Anybody can go on there and look at a resource. So if we have a homeschool parent, a private school parent, we can put, and they can go in and see our resources and see what they are. All of the resources are also approved by me, the administrator. So if somebody just tried to put something on there that wasn't aligned with our Virginia standards, or was a commercial something, or didn't have the copyright, then that would not go through the approval process. But we do try to keep it open. Anybody can publish on there as long as it's Virginia aligned standards. We did just update to 2.5, which increased our cybersecurity and our membership to be able to be easier to get in there, but also still have it be high quality. We also added some extra things for our LTI integration. So now, if let's say somebody created something, it's super awesome. We're working with Virtual Virginia this summer to do a professional learning with an instructional playbook. So everybody in here probably knows what a think, pair, share is, correct? So we can make an instructional playbook slide for students that also has the instructor's notes on how to do that strategy. And then I click a special button and it goes straight to my Canvas course. So that's a simple example, but we could do something more robust with that. So for instance, maybe a science, security, or safety lesson. We can have that in there. We just click the button and it goes straight to my Canvas course or my Schoology course or my Google Classroom. I can make it an assignment. So making it super easy for teachers to find Virginia SOL aligned materials, adapt it for their students, and then publish it into their Canvas course or whatever their learning management system is. And then the last thing we've added this year is we have a really cool new Achieve evaluation rubric. So as I'm working with teachers on how to use the open educational resources, one of our first steps is to go in and evaluate a resource to make sure that it is high quality, so that as we're creating resources, we also make sure we have high level. Kind of like when we're teaching students to write. We want them to go look at some writing first, some resource creation first, see what high quality things that we are. So I appreciate all of our awesome partners. We have some great new partners coming on this year, and I'm super excited about the resources that we're going to have. I really think we're going to be able to take this to the next level and add to our nice partnerships that we already have with curriculum creators with the open educational resources. The digital learning integration standards is also one of my hats. This past, it used to be computer technology standards learning, and now we have the digital learning integration standards. They passed in 2020, and if you look at the big blue words, they look a lot like profile of a graduate. Okay, those are the things that we aren't necessarily measuring on a standardized test. Instead, this is what we want our students to be able to do when they graduate high school, so that they're ready for citizenship in the Commonwealth. So I feel like our teachers still probably need to learn how to apply these to everyday lessons, because they are truly supposed to be integrated. As I go visit schools, I always love it when I walk into a room and I see the objectives on the board, but these objectives are missing still. They're teaching these things. I was in a health class where they were creating safety PSAs, and I didn't see anything where they were talking about being an innovative designer or being a computational thinker. So I'm hoping that we can do a better job of telling our teachers, when you create a resource, make sure you're putting those digital learning integration standards in there as well, because you're already teaching them. We just want to show that you are K through 12 integrating it. And then the other thing I think we really need to keep working on, just like Dr. Claire talked about, our robust infrastructure. So we need to continue having that broadband access, having one-to-one ratio, having the things in the classroom to help. How are we supposed to teach coding? We don't have robots, okay? And then we want to have our teachers equipped with how to integrate the digital learning integration standards, and that's where our ITRTs come in. If we don't have instructional technology resource teachers, helping teachers with that robust infrastructure makes it difficult for them to feel confident to integrate these standards. We need to have change agent administrators that when they do walk into a classroom, they're like, what DLI are you working on today? And then last but not least, of course, is connecting our community to this. And I'm going to talk about this more in a second, but our parents aren't aware yet of the digital learning integration standards, and that's what they should expect out of their classroom teachers. A lot of the times parents have kind of a negative feeling about it, technology right now, because what they're seeing is the digital citizenship side of it, or the assessment or they're seeing just the, kill and drill stuff on a school computer. And they're not seeing that this is, like what Dr. Claire talked about, this is what we want. This is the impact we want to have with that robust infrastructure. So we did administer the Speak Up survey this year. It was the first time since 2018. We did kind of have a low turnout, and we're working with Project Tomorrow starting this month about integrating that survey next year, so we have a bigger window, and also we don't want to just survey everybody to death. Hopefully we can get with a lot of our divisions gave their own survey, and we want to see if maybe they'll give this one instead, because it is free. And what's nice about the Speak Up survey is across the entire Commonwealth, so you can compare your data with other people's data. So we did, of the people who answered, we did get a nice across the state, and we also had a lot of surveys given in other languages, and so that was nice to really get to see a little bit of everybody. So even though we have small numbers, it is a nice picture, snapshot of across the whole Commonwealth. So I know you guys are all going to be shocked by this, but our secondary students feel restricted by the filter on the internet. They don't like that they can't use their personal devices. I don't think that's going to be fixed, but what can we do to create personalized learning experiences so students don't feel restricted? That's what they really want. They want those personalized learning instruction. They want to be able to make their own path, and I love this, that they said they think learning on their own is the most important skill that they can have by the time they graduate high school. I love that they recognize that. But they did say that they spend most of their time on technology looking up information, remediating, and assessing. That's not what we want. We want our kids to not feel like that's all they're doing on their school computer. Parents feel like teachers are using too much technology and that it varies too much from teacher to teacher. So I go to one class, the teacher's using technology this way. I go to this class and they're using it this way, and that's confusing to the students and maybe to the parents. So parents and administrators feel like kids need to work on digital citizenship, but surprise, our students feel like they're good digital citizens. So that's a really interesting, because we, we're doing all these things for digital safety, and our students said they feel safe on using digital items. So, all right, here comes the follow-up with Dr. Claire. Our survey showed that the internet is inconsistent, and they weren't just talking about at home, they're also talking about in the classroom. And that students have broken laptops and they're not charged, and they're getting frustrated by the lack of learning, because they're like, I wasn't ready for this digital learning integration, but I can't do it because the student doesn't have a computer that works. Teachers still want to have in-person workshops. So even though they do some awesome virtual learning, teachers still want to come in and do in-person workshops. And teachers observed positive outcomes when it came to students learning individually and in their own environment. So that's good too, that our teachers want to have more personalized learning, and they feel like it's a good thing. That's a good thing. They don't feel like they're going to be replaced or something like that. Administrators feel like they only have a basic knowledge of the strategies and resources that are needed for project-based learning, but my favorite thing is they want to learn more. So our professional learning, hopefully, is going to be geared towards that. Our parents, administrators, and students, we didn't ask the teachers this question, all agree that jobs, volunteers, and internships are the best thing to prepare our secondary students for the future. So what are we doing in virtual learning to help students have more jobs, internships, and those real-world experiences? And then, to follow up what Dr. Claire said too, 50% of our infrastructure funding last year came from CARES Act money. What are we going to do to keep that infrastructure, fall off this year? What are we going to do with our bonds? What are we going to do with grant funding to make sure that when those Chromebooks go kaput next year, that we're going to be able to replace them and have a long-term spending plan? Coming up this year is our current educational technology plan is expiring, and we need a new one. So the Board of Education has approved our timeline for this revision. Our committee of advisors has been formed. It includes all the things that they've asked for in the Code of Virginia. We have solicited input from the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Education. Right now, we're in the reflection, request, and research phase. If any of you want to give me input, I'm happy to take it anytime, but we will start drafting this month, hopefully, and have a draft to you guys by September. In October, we will distribute that to the public, and hopefully the board will have the final approval by November, and that will be part of the bigger comprehensive plan for Virginia, which is required by the Commonwealth. I'm sure a lot of you are developing your own educational technology plans in your own divisions, so please, I'm sure you all are being aware, but feel free to email me anytime if you have any questions. That being said, back to Reggie and Meg. Thank you both.
Thank you.
thank you so much to all of our presenters. Wonderful information, thanks for sharing with everyone today. In essence of the time constraints here, I'm going to kind of truncate my part about this, which was a little bit of more of an overview, because I really want to get to Reggie's part, which is the fun part. So what we're headed to next is really something near and dear to Reggie and my heart as educators. It's professional learning, providing resources, providing webinars and opportunities to help educators and all of our virtual learning stakeholders. One of the ways we do that is through, on the screen, the Virtual Teaching and Learning Hub. This was something that just a few short years ago was an idea that what could we do to kind of have a gathering place for virtual learning where all stakeholders could go to get support and resources. We have three main prongs in our hub. The first one is supporting virtual learning. And in that prong, you really find topics designed to ensure the quality and effectiveness of virtual learning programs and instruction. You'll see a few key areas on the slide. The second one is our planning for virtual teaching. And in that prong, we've added resources highlighting ways educators can prepare in order to effectively implement virtual learning opportunities for their students. And again, there are some key area topics on the slide. So now we get to the heart of the matter that we wanted to do today, which is our professional learning area. This is where we've been gathering many supports at many levels, including at the DOE level, state resources and national resources. What we wanted to really highlight and give you some examples of is what we call the virtual learning, professional learning webinar series. And so Reggie and I started this series, I guess about 2 to 2.5 years ago, in an effort to really hone in on virtual learning policies, procedures, and implementation strategies that we could share with all virtual learning stakeholders, including our schools and our divisions. And we're hoping to add another component for families and students as well. And so this is where we have actually designed professional learning opportunities, and then we present these webinars to our virtual learning stakeholders, and then we record them. And so we post all our videos on our Teaching and Learning Hub. And so Reggie's going to share some excerpts from some of our webinars so that you get an idea of some of the things that we've been working on.
Thank you, Meg, and it's vital that we continue to collaborate with you all because we have partnerships, as Dr. Mott has emphasized right here within the room, of course, with WHRO and VLAC. We all collaborate and talk. We've gone to people within the Department of Ed, like Maggie Clemens, who's with the Office of Licensure.
In Virginia, school divisions are the captains of their own ship, basically, when it comes to accreditation and the factors that go into accreditation, because they're the ones that are on the ground level. They know their students, they know their school communities, they know where they're going to have to make some effort to change the metrics, right? So it is required by law that teachers have a license, whether it's provisional license or a full renewable license. It's required by law for them to be properly licensed and endorsed.
And so Maggie goes on to talk about those endorsements. One in particular is this online learning license, so that teachers who haven't been teaching face-to-face can continue to teach online. We've had interesting conversations with our Office of Data Services so that we're able to collaborate. When the question came up about data, I kind of smiled because we are working with the Office of Data Services to gather that data to make it more visible and accurate. We're actually working to add virtual learning to a website that is being developed, the one that shows in-school data for students who are performing in school. So as we look to increase what we do here online, we're engaging not only virtual Department of Ed, the Virginia Department of Ed, but we're looking outside the national organizations. We've had, went to the Evergreen Education Group, which used to be Dr. Allison Powell, used to be a part of INACO. So we're engaging online leaders from nationally, as well as Quality Matters. When we talk about the national online learning standards, as Calypso has addressed today with digital standards, we're talking about national standards that affect virtual programs as well as virtual courses and how to develop and design these courses so that we can be successful.
So the first thing I want to do is to talk about the national standards for quality online teaching. There are 8 different standards. Those include things like professional responsibilities, digital pedagogy, community building, learning engagement, digital citizenship, diverse instruction, assessment and measurement. And then there's also one other standard in there, and it's standard H, which is instructional design. So instructional design, that one we actually...
So when we talk about what's going on with the national standards, you see we've actually mentioned some of those in this meeting today so that we can reflect on those national standards as they apply to good teaching, good instruction, effective assessment online that impacts our total virtual program. So we will continue these conversations, and we want to continue to engage this group. We will be in touch with you because we have, through our SSWS, a listing of virtual folks within the divisions, but we haven't been able to communicate as effectively as we want. So we're going to begin to work through your divisions, start with you, and identify those folks and try to have more conversation and collaboration among the divisions across the state. So with that in mind, we're looking at our next steps, and that is our fall meeting. Sometime in September, we will be collaborating with you about your role, whether you prefer to remain on this committee or rotate within the region. We will have our YouTube up and our questions open to our virtual learning program email box so that the public who are viewing may send questions. Also, you may send questions or directly to us as reflecting on anything that you've heard in this meeting today. So while we want to give our thank yous, I do want to that's all right. I thought I was going in stereo.
I was going to say that I'll rotate off. That's what.
There's not retirement.
No.
I don't want to tell secrets in this meeting. But Ms. Schultz, Elizabeth, would you want to just give some departing thank you?
This is, I think that if you went back 3 or 4 years ago, you would, like, virtual learning was something that was over there. It was for those kids. It was, you know, some people had found a way, either they were highly technologically competent and they're maximizing students' learning for their particular students, or they have a unique circumstance. There's a medical situation, there's a homeschool situation where they can't have access to that type of content. And we've had a worldwide shift in what is possible. And I like, Susan, your question. It's not what are we doing, but what is possible. And this committee and your representation across the Commonwealth, it's not the same experience for all students. It's not the same experience for students in one city versus another, in one rural area versus another. and, lending your background, your expertise, drawing from colleagues, and peers to help inform this work is really crucial to help us, it feels a little bit tired, but lean in on them. Because we have to not be comfortable with where we are. We have to look at data. We have to look at what that experience is in our respective communities and go, okay, this is where we are. Where do we want to be? How do we innovate? How do we use, it's not my favorite in the world to use federal funds, but if they're there, how do we do what we're doing in a different way that changes the lives of children? If we change the trajectory for a child, we may change their personal economy, and then we change, their future. We change the economy of a community and the economy of our Commonwealth. So you lend a very important voice to this work, and I look forward to hearing how this advisory committee continues to inform what we need to do.
Any parting comments from anyone else in the room, on the committee?
For me, I'll just say thank you to all of you for coming. I know it was a drive for some folks to get here, and once you got here, there was a lot of sit and get, and we often try our best not to do that. However, a lot of information, we needed to do that vote, and we appreciated your support on that. Realize that those who've been around this group for a while will know that we've done a lot of committee work, we've done a lot of breaking up into small groups. That expectation needs to be in the back of your mind about what this committee is going to be like, because even though we've built the structures for virtual learning, we want to make sure that in Virginia, not only are we doing it and there's access, but we're doing it well. And that's where we need your wisdom and your guidance to make sure that we do virtual learning in a spectacular way, not just we're providing a service.
No, just thank you again, and please, anyone traveling, have a safe trip home, and it's just wonderful to see everyone and to get this committee up and going again, and looking forward to, as Dr. Alvin said, more discussions as we used to have. This one definitely had to have a little bit of policy included. That took some time, but that really opens up the opportunity to, again, have face-to-face mixed with virtual meetings. And so thank you, and much appreciated. Thank you to the presenters who presented today, and it's always great to have those connections between virtual learning and the power of the Virginia program, infrastructure technology, instructional technology. They all go hand in hand, and you can't have one without the other. Yeah. And so when we come together like this, it's just, to me, so powerful. And I know we're all here because of our kiddos, right? That's where it comes down to the families and the kiddos that we serve. So thanks so much, very much appreciated.
And enjoy, as we are at the end or near the end of this school year, enjoy the closing. Be safe, enjoy your students and those who support us from the community. We appreciate you, and thank you, those of you who have attended online, thank you so much, and have a good day.
There are cookies, please take these.